You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
This explosive accusation set the tone for one of the most tense confrontational meetings ever witnessed in the White House. In a dramatic showdown, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and even the media came down hard on Zelenskyy, almost blaming him for the conflict with Russia, even though his country was the one that had been invaded. The stakes were massive too. Negotiations over a vital Ukraine-US minerals deal collapsed, and US military support for Ukraine hangs by a mere thread. The meeting ended with Zelenskyy leaving the White House early, with Trump saying, "Come back when you're ready for peace." Without a doubt, for me, this was one of the most intense political showdowns in recent memory, and we're going to break it all down in this video. But first, let's quickly dive into the background that led to this dramatic moment. It all started with a controversial rare earth mineral deal between Ukraine and the US. Basically, Ukraine sits on a goldmine of rare earth minerals and offered the US a stake in exchange for military support and security guarantees. After a lot of back and forth, including a moment when Trump's administration demanded a $500 billion payback in minerals, it looked like the US and Ukraine had finally reached an agreement. This would have established a joint U.S.-Ukraine fund, receiving 50% of annual revenues from new rare earth mining to support reconstruction, mining, and security. Of course, US companies would then gain a major stake in Ukraine's recovery, potentially deterring Russia. But then came Friday, when Trump welcomed Zelenskyy to the White House, framing the deal as the first step towards a ceasefire agreement he's trying to broker between Russia and Ukraine. But things went south fast. Zelenskyy was adamant about security guarantees, which kind of makes sense considering he's giving up a lot of resources. But this was something Trump was simply not willing to offer. Then, on live television, the tension exploded. Trump and Zelenskyy clashed repeatedly over their views on Russia, the negotiations, and the level of European support for Ukraine. It actually started off somewhat civil, but J.D. Vance's presence ensured things got ugly, fast. Zelenskyy laid out his case. Putin can't be trusted. He listed all the broken promises, including a 2019 ceasefire deal with Macron, Merkel, and Putin that fell apart almost instantly. He pressed Vance directly, asking how diplomacy could work without military guarantees.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what?
And then, as if Trump needed to one-up Vance, things escalated even further. Both Trump and Vance went all in.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Frankly, this is getting ridiculous. The amount of false information the Trump administration is getting away with is staggering. Zelenskyy campaigning for the opposition? False. Zelenskyy being unthankful? False again. He actually started the very same meeting saying thank you. And the US giving more to Ukraine than Europe? Also false. Honestly, the showdown in the Oval Office felt orchestrated. It was like a coordinated bullying session, with the entire room, from politicians to the media, ganging up on Zelenskyy. And just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, they even started criticizing his clothes.
Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest, why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
This is a man who has led his country through 3 years of terror and war. Regardless of where you stand politically, he deserves respect. And this was the opposite. It was petty, insulting, and quite frankly, disgusting. The meeting ended with Zelenskyy being asked to leave early, no raw materials deal in sight, and US military support for Ukraine hanging by a thread. Instead of diplomatic progress, Trump's parting gift was a Truth Social post, saying that Zelenskyy could come back when he's ready for peace. The world also reacted swiftly. Most European leaders stood firmly with Ukraine, including Tusk, Macron, Merz, and Ursula von der Leyen. Kaja Kallas, the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, took it a step further, saying that the free world needs a new leader. But there were notable exceptions. In Europe, Hungary's Viktor Orban praised Trump, declaring strong men make peace and weak men make war. And then, of course, there were the Russians, who were probably having the best day ever. The deputy head of Russia's Security Council called Zelenskyy an insolent pig, who had received a proper slapdown in the Oval Office. And the deputy chair of Russia's upper house of parliament went even further, saying the encounter revealed Zelenskyy's true colors, saying that he will have to crawl to the next meeting on his knees. In an attempt at damage control, Zelenskyy took to X to thank the American people for their continued support, and even made an appearance on Fox News, trying to salvage what was left of the now super fragile Ukraine-US relationship.
Do you agree with that President Trump is too close to Vladimir Putin in your mind?
We spoke about it, and I think today very openly President Trump, he said that I want to be in the middle, otherwise I will not put these guys at the table.
And is he right?
I want to be very honest, I want really him to be more at our side. I will explain why. Because it's not just that the war began somewhere between our countries. The war began when Russia brought this war to our country, and they're not right. And they are not right. They didn't respect our territorial integrity. They brought the war on our territory to our families. Sorry for repeating, to our houses.
And while this was all playing out in Washington, another drone strike in Ukraine killed at least 5 people. Is it really so hard to see who the aggressor is here? Here's what I think. What happened in the Oval Office yesterday was a tragedy, and it may go down in history as a turning point. One thing is now crystal clear. The Trump administration's foreign policy isn't guided by values or alliances, but economic gain. Even more concerning, it really feels like Putin is playing Trump. So far, I've seen 0 concessions from Russia. Nothing. And worse, Trump won't even criticize him, let alone call Russia aggressors. Is he really the master dealmaker he claims to be? No. This is weakness. Kaja Kallas is likely right. There's an empty seat for the leader of the free world. The real question is, will us Europeans finally step up, take responsibility, and own our continent's security? We need unity, a real coordinated foreign policy across the EU, working closely with the UK and Ukraine. Tomorrow's Defense Summit in London could be the start. If you want to understand how Europe can decouple from the United States, we've made an entire video on it. Check it out here. And if you want to support us further, consider joining us on Patreon. Every contribution helps us bring you more in-depth discussions on Europe's future. Thank you so much to our presidents, Jan, Schaukje, Christian, Peter, AGVD, BJ, and Unite Europe. See you in the next video.